Hey everybody, Gabe here. Purpose of this video today is to give you some updates regarding the Paycheck Protection Program, and not necessarily an update with the EIDL, but maybe a word of caution. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little time and explain that. Recently there was the Paycheck Protection Plan Flexibility Act was recently passed, and the SBA sent out some information explaining what all of that was. And so basically the three things that I want to make sure we talk about regarding the Paycheck Protection Plan Flexibility Act, but that's easy for me to say. The PPP Flexibility Act. One, it reduces the percentage of the amount of the loan that has to go to payroll. It goes from 75% to 60%, and I'll explain that a little bit further. It also extends the time period until you have to get your employees back on to qualify for forgiveness. And then the other thing is there's some additional information that I will share that'll help clear up the confusion regarding partial loan forgiveness and how that works. So what basically the Flexibility Act, the PPP Flexibility Act did is the first thing it did is it reduced the amount of payroll from your loan that had to go to, it reduced the amount of the loan, the amount of that went to payroll to qualify for forgiveness. And so it goes from 75% to 60%. So let's use the simple numbers of $100,000. You took out a PPP loan for $100,000, and originally you needed to use $75,000 of that to take care of your payroll and keep payroll in place to qualify for forgiveness on the loan. That number has now been changed to 60%. So now $60,000 has to go to take care of payroll, which is keeping people on payroll in your case. The other thing that it did is that it extended the time period from 8 weeks, which was supposed to end June 30th, all the way to the end of the year, because states and cities are opening up at different times throughout the year. Some people are now fully open, some people are not. And so therefore it's extending that time period across the country all the way to December 31st. So the first two major things that the PPP Flexibility Act did is decrease from 75% to 60%. And then the other thing that it did is it extended the time period all the way to the end of the year to get those employees back on to qualify for forgiveness. The other piece was really some clarification of confusion. And the clarification of confusion is all right, I took $100,000 for the PPP loan. Let's just say that's you, and you took $100,000, but you only really needed $50,000. And so the example was, well, if I didn't even use all of the 60% or the 75% in the old rules, do I qualify for any loan forgiveness? And the answer is yes. They gave some clarification of it as long as you used at least 60% of what the money you did use for payroll, then you're going to qualify for what's called partial loan forgiveness. So let's use the example. You have $100,000 of the PPP loan that you took. You really only used a total of $50,000 of it. Then you have to, if you only used $50,000, then $30,000 of it, or 60% of it, has to have gone for payroll. If that's the case, then you qualify for the $50,000 loan forgiveness because you meet the 60% number with your $30,000. The remaining $50,000 that you took in your PPP loan then has to get paid back at the end of the year. Or you could say, you know what, I'm just going to keep that. That's almost like free money. 1% for 5 years. You pay back that loan over 5 years with a 1% interest rate. So something to think about as a business owner to keep yourself, and the best way to explain it, keep yourself prepared for any uncertainty that might come across in the future. Now, let's say you're great, I don't need this money at the end of the year, but I still want to go through and I want to get my forgiveness. You're going to need to reach out to your banker. There's an application that just came out. Reach out to the banker that helped you get your PPP loan and start that process of getting your ducks in a row and your paperwork in place. When you took your PPP loan, hopefully you set up separate accounts so that you know exactly where those funds went. If you did not, my advice to you is reach out to your CPA, your tax professional, to make sure that you are covering your bases so that when you do go apply for forgiveness, it's nice and easy and a nice package and you can get approval quickly. Now, the next piece of my video is to talk about the EIDL, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan. They've been around forever, from all kinds of hurricanes and floods and things like that. But the things that we're starting to learn now is we're getting some more clarification. And one of the pieces of clarification is if you take more than $25,000 of that EIDL loan, that loan then requires collateral and security. And that security then, let's say it's your house or maybe it's a car or it's a piece of equipment, is going to come first. Now, why is this coming up? Well, people are starting to get emails from their banks. They applied for the EIDL right away. They either got their $10,000 or they got $1,000 per person when they updated the plan. And then they said, we're going to put your application through a process and then we'll let you know what your award is down the road. Well, I just heard the story from my CPA the other day that someone had $150,000 in revenues last year. They got an email and said, hey, you can take $75,000 from the EIDL. Now that reminds me of the days when I was in college and you could always tell when the student loan money came in. There's always a few kids who are like, hey man, I got awarded way more money than I needed. I'm just going to borrow the money. Let's go party. You've got to make sure that this does not become the college party for you, because that generally does not end well for most people as well as most business owners. I can still remember kids having monster debt from taking too much out, and then it takes them years to pay that back. So the first thing you want to do is if you get that email from your banker that says you're eligible for X, sit down with your banker or get on your phone or do the Zoom call, whatever you need to do, have a conversation with your banker of, do I really truly need this? That's going to be your decision. And then how much do you want to take? If it's under $25,000, it's a security guarantee, meaning signature guarantee, which means there's no security required. But more than $25,000, if you take it, you then have to file collateral. There's all kinds of additional things. A UCC gets filed with the state. It could very well impact your ability to get loans in the future, like a new car loan down the road, a new vehicle loan for your truck, for your business, or something for your home, or a home refinance, or a new house. It could affect your future credit and your future ability to get credit. So my advice to you is have a good, clear conversation with your banker to make sure that that's something that you really want to go down the road with. So let me give you a quick little summary. The Paycheck Protection Flexibility Act does a couple things. One, reduces the amount that has to go to payroll from 75% of the dollars to 60%. So in your $100,000 example, $60,000 needs to go to payroll, or if you do a partial. The other piece of the puzzle is you have a time extension now to get your people back on all the way to the end of the year. And then the other piece of the puzzle regarding the partial loan forgiveness, there's not a concern. If you don't use all the money, that's okay. You then have to run the calculations to make sure that you're at least using 60% of the amount that you have needs to go to payroll, and that will help you figure out your partial loan forgiveness. If you have additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. You can also reach out to your CPA and even reach out to your banker. My advice to you is make sure you take some time and understand what you're getting yourself into. Make sure you visit with your CPA. Make sure you visit with your banker. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to help. And please go ahead and hit subscribe. When you have that little subscribe button, there's a little bell there. You got to click on that bell to make sure you get notified if you like these videos and like to get some more. If you want to see me or hear me on my podcast, check out Solopreneur Money Podcast. And if you have any other questions you want to reach out to me, just go to my website, GabeNelsonFinancial.com. Thanks. Have a great day.